Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for coming on this hot evening, especially if you're in the Bay Area right now. It's one of those hot days. The event is AI across industries. What's next for work and society? And I have something covering my slides. So we have a fantastic panel today. One thing they all share in common is expertise in AI. And another thing they all share in common is they're all either current or former students in our executive doctorate in business administration program. We have Terry, who's an expert in the space economy. He spent many years at NASA, and now he's consulting with startups. We have Marjorie, who's a veteran in the healthcare industry. She's currently a VP and has a lot of experience in healthcare. We have Aurora, who's at Salesforce. She's an expert on agents, which I think if you don't know about agents, it's something we want to learn about. We also have Greg, who's done consulting in AI, and right now he's focused on helping police forces use AI to do what they do better and spend more time helping people and citizens as opposed to doing the parts of policing that are very bureaucratic. We also have Christine, who gets credit for two things. She's currently a professor at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, where she's training UX designers of the future. But before that, she was a UX designer for many years. So she's got education in UX design and how AI fits into those. And last but not least, we have Raul, who actually has something in common with Christine other than the DBA program. They both spent years working at Amazon, so that's a shared thing. But today, Raul is an advisor and founder, and he works with companies on strategic implementation of AI across domains. So we've got all sorts of experts, and I couldn't be more grateful and delighted to be able to spend an hour and a half with them, learning with the rest of you about AI. So a bit about the agenda. First, I want to welcome everybody, the panel, the audience, our fabulous tech support, Rob Lyman. I thought it would be helpful, and if you can use the chat for this, to get a sense of who's in the audience, because y'all just heard about us and you're going to learn more about each of the panelists, but we'd like to learn who's here and from where. So if you can let us know in the chat, if you're a student, faculty member, staff member, alumni, or guest from outside of the St. Mary's College community, and welcome. We love having people from outside and inside. If you're a student or faculty member or staff, you can tell us what your major was or what school you're in. You don't have to, but we just want to get a sense of who's here. I think I have some people from Ilana Golan's workshop, so you can share that if you want. I'm a big fan of that workshop and that person. So we've got a lot of students. I'm seeing staff, I'm seeing students. We have Dean Don Gibson, so that's pretty hot. We've got some faculty. Students are dominating though. We've got some adjuncts, we've got alumni, yay to our alumni, staff, student, and alumni, wow. Triple person, I'm seeing alumni, I'm seeing students, it's all over the map. So wonderful, wonderful, and thank you so much for joining and for telling us a bit about yourself. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do now that we've covered finding out who's in the audience is brief introductions from the panel, and they're gonna tell you a little bit about themselves, as well as one of the ways that AI is having a big impact in their particular field or industry. Then I'm going to ask some questions. The moderator is me, some prepared questions, and several people from the panel will answer each of those questions. And then I think the part that's the most exciting is taking questions from the audience. If you have a question and you have a specific person that you want to have answer it, then you can say that. I'd really like to learn about blah, blah, blah related to blah, 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 and then just write the first name. Or if you have a question and you'd like as much input as possible and you would be happy for anyone on the panel to answer it, you can write that. But the way to get your question answered is to put it in the Q&A. We may not have time for all of them, but the only way to have a chance of having your question answered is to post it in the Q&A. Chat is for answering questions we ask. Q&A is for questions you have for our fantastic panel. So I hope that makes sense. I also have some logistics and important points before we get to the introductions. First, this event is being recorded. Only people who are speaking will appear in the recording. So if you're in the audience and you never ask a question, you won't be in the recording. But know that the recording will be shared with all registrants, including the ones who came and the ones who didn't make it. And it will also be posted online for people who didn't even register. So that's an important point, especially if you're planning to ask a question. During Q&A, we will invite selected audience members who post questions to unmute themselves, turn on their camera, and ask their questions live. You cannot unmute yourself unless you're asking a question and you're called on, and then we give you permission, and then you have to click to unmute yourself. So if you do not want to appear in the recording, though I think it's a cool opportunity to appear in the recording, but for some reason you don't want to appear in the recording, but you still want us to address your question, just say that clearly after you post your question in Q&A. I will give a preference for people who are willing to unmute themselves and ask their questions themselves, because I think people will get very sick of hearing me talk for an hour and a half and hearing me ask all the questions. And I think it'll be more exciting if we have some of the audience actually asking the questions themselves. But just know that if you're posting a question and you don't indicate otherwise, we will ask you to ask the question out loud and you will be in the recording. And then last but not least, this is important, a disclaimer. The views expressed on this panel are those of the individual panelists and do not necessarily reflect those of their affiliated organizations. We have a panel from all sorts of backgrounds and types of organizations, and they're experts in their fields, and the expertise they're sharing is their individual expertise, not necessarily the viewpoint of their entire organization. Okay, finally, the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm going to let the panel talk. That's what we're here for. So each of them are going to answer the following question. Tell us a bit about yourself, as well as an area in your field where AI is having a particularly big impact. And Aurora, if you can answer that question first, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, nice to meet everyone. My name is Aurora Zamora. As Michelle mentioned, I work at Salesforce as an account executive, helping organizations transform their business processes. In our conversation today, obviously, is the impact of AI. So generally, we help organizations adopt AI, transform and understand what automations can be automated with an agentic forward footprint, and what can be transformed within decision making. And I think that's where we're having the biggest impact.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So if y'all have questions about AI agents, Aurora is one of the people on our panel who I know has a lot of expertise there, a lot more than me. Great. So next we have Terry.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm Terry Pagan. I'm a former NASA official, guess you could say government bureaucrat. But a few years ago, I decided to go back to school to satisfy my intellectual curiosity. I really wanted to study how space exploration, the field I've worked in my entire career, was transforming itself into the space economy. So, and I also wanted to develop practical management expertise to be able to help shape the space economy as an industry leader, not as a bureaucrat. So I came to St. Mary's and enrolled in the Doctorate in Business Administration, which has given me the tools to achieve both my career goals. I'm doing research on how new industries emerge, and I launched a consulting business to help companies create new products and services in the space economy. So to your question about what's happening in space, Michelle, AI is playing a big role in space. AI helps NASA and companies like SpaceX plan complex missions and analyze huge amounts of data faster than humans can. And you're going to hear that a lot tonight from my esteemed colleagues. You know, upcoming missions to the moon and Mars will require AI to augment astronaut capabilities. In fact, those missions could involve a hybrid of human and robotic crew members. Think about that. So anyway, lastly, future use cases include data centers and semiconductor manufacturing. Sounds kind of crazy, but they're actually working on it to take advantage of the unique zero gravity atmosphere of space, you know, which promises to radically improve AI computing performance. So you hear why Elon and Jeff are so excited about space and AI. It's because they see space as a way to really supercharge AI performance. So these are just some of the ways in which AI and space are coming together. And there could be countless other ways we have yet to imagine. So I'm excited to be part of this brave new world. Like everything else this panel will talk about, there are tremendous risks, no doubt, right? But there could also be tremendous opportunities to create new markets and industries. And that's why this group from the DBA went back to school. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terry. And I like that your background reminds us that you're the space economy guy, in case we forget.
Station, I know.
Next, we have Christine, who's worn the UX design and the professor hats. And she's going to be sharing a bit about herself and where she's seeing an impact.
Yes, thank you, Michelle. Good to see you all tonight. Some names I remember from not too distant ago, and some that I'm actually really excited that there's a whole bunch of students here, because as Michelle mentioned, I have two hats. One where I work in different tech companies for over 20 years in user experience design. I was able to see how it transform throughout the last 20 years. I was just thinking about a story where I was telling a student the other day. It used to take our team 2 years from the start at IBM, from the start of the project where we build the business requirements all the way to the project actually getting implemented. Nowadays with AI, it only takes maybe 2 to 3 weeks to get an app up and running. So there's definitely, from a development standpoint, from a design standpoint, AI is changing everything. And that's why my current job now, being an assistant professor at Cal Poly, I'm really hoping to bridge that gap, because in education, sometimes we're still teaching the theories and how we've been doing things for many, many years. But what I'm hoping to do is to show a little bit of how AI can help and transform those processes that's been done for many years. And the industry definitely is adopting it right now. So that's a major part of my research. That was my dissertation as well. And that's where some of my areas of expertise is right now. But I'm sure we'll talk about a lot more later on.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christine. And next we have Greg.
Thanks, Michelle. Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Greg. I'm a business consultant who focuses on how organizations operate. Right now, I'm currently finishing my doctorate on process innovation and how artificial intelligence drives that innovation. And my main focus is on law enforcement, which is really quite fascinating. What I find really interesting about hearing this group right now is, and this may resonate with many of you, we're all lifelong learners. And so really, at least for me, at my core, I'm a problem solver. I'm always both in my home life and whenever I work with different businesses, I spend a lot of time asking, like, why are things done in a certain way? And then how can we make them better? So when I think about my field and AI and what's its impact, well, what's really exciting right now and what I am most impressed by, which Christine kind of talked about a little bit, is how AI is reshaping, and it's not just reshaping efficiency. What we're seeing right now is people are now working differently. The trajectory of learning and the curve of learning has changed, and it's speeding up for those who are adopting. And what I think for the people who are very invested, not only just learning but also learning this new technology, is it's allowing people to reach their potential, I think, in a shorter time than what has ever occurred in history. So I think that's really where the big impact is. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. And next we have Marjorie.
Thank you. Excited to be here. A little bit about me. I am from the healthcare industry. I've been in the healthcare field for about 25 years, not to age myself. I started when I was like 2 years old. I know. I did work at organizations like Cedars-Sinai, Kaiser Permanente, Memorial Hermann as director, corporate director, service area director. Currently, I'm a vice president with an organization called Steris, which is a very large industry provider. I did get my EDBA from St. Mary's, and I'm very excited to see several alumni from my program in the audience. I also got a postdoctorate master's from Harvard Med School. So, again, very excited about this conversation. We are seeing major transformation in the healthcare industry with AI, whether it's coming from new treatments being created, whether it's coming from new technologies for diagnostics, being able to better interpret and get more consistent results from imaging, X-ray, MRIs, CAT scans, etc. But one of the more interesting things that we're seeing, I think, in the hospital is a lot of optimization with AI technologies. We know healthcare is very expensive. We know the US uses and spends a lot more money on healthcare than other organizations or other fields and industries out there in other countries. So a lot of what healthcare companies in the US are doing now is trying to figure out ways to use AI and technology to make sure the right person is getting the right care at the right time to reduce, the escalation of some of these diseases, but also to move patients through the processes more quickly, efficiently, and really optimize that so we're able to care for more people. And with the right level of care. So I'm glad to talk further about this, but Michelle, thank you for having me.
Oh, and thank you so much for being here. It's interesting. I had a medical appointment today, and AI was taking notes for my doctor. And I know he's got 4 patients an hour back to back, and sometimes he has emergencies. And I was very happy for AI to take notes for him. I was happy that it lightened the heavy load of my physician. Fantastic. Last but not least, for sure not least, Raul, please introduce yourself and tell us about how AI is impacting your field of area.
Hi, I'm Rahul Jashre. I'm a technologist. Till last year, I was at Amazon helping some of the large businesses across the globe help adopt AI to solve some of the complex business problems. Now I help founders of small businesses and startups help integrate AI into their business case to scale their business models. One of the key traits that I possess is as a strategist, I focus on the big picture and make sure that we install enough guardrails so that the AI is doing what is required for your business. What I'm seeing in my industry is if you look at the software industry as a whole, it is going through a financial turmoil right now. There is a lot of valuation which has evaporated. And the cause for that is a lot of companies came out and said, oh, 60% of our code is generated by AI, 70% of our code is generated by AI. But in return, the market is trying to understand if the code is generated by AI, will the customers pay the enterprise support pricing because the code is generated by AI will be supported by AI. So there is a lot of turmoil and uncertainty, but everybody is realizing that even though the code is generated by AI, it needs to be re-verified by the humans. Humans need to be in control because sometimes the decisions that AI takes, critical decisions like wiping out a production account or production data, it can be really disastrous for the businesses. And so that's what we are seeing in the software industry.
Thank you so much. You all shared such interesting insights, and I've had you all as students, so it's delightful for me to hear you at the next level, even outside of my class. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, the next question is an important one. 4 people have been assigned to answer this, but for the other 2, if you feel like there's some advice that you think the students and the rest of the audience, the whole audience should hear that hasn't been given, I will give you a chance to chime in. And that question is, what advice do you have for people who are concerned about how AI will affect their career prospects? And if that's you, put the letter Y in the chat. And if that's not you, you can put the letter N in the chat. We'll see how common a concern that is. But panelists, starting with Marjorie, what advice do you have for the people that are concerned about this?
Wait, I have to type my Y in the chat real quick.
And she's a VP. Oh dear.
No. So the truth is, like, we're all concerned about AI and the impact that we expect to see that have on our different industries. One thing I will say in healthcare, we see about 70% of these initiatives fail. And a big piece of that is AI cannot be successful on its own. I think, Michelle, we had a conversation not long ago. It's human plus AI. It's additive. It doesn't work well on its own. Humans are great, but we can do even more with this assisted technology. So what I would say is that people that are coming into organizations entry level, they're starting their new career, they're starting in these new fields, especially healthcare, because healthcare is just booming right now with job opportunities and with especially people that have healthcare technical expertise, but also computer IT techno. Oh my gosh, I'm stuttering, Michelle.
Technological skills there.
Thank you. Well, expertise, technical skills, all of those things. These people are really powerful, and there are what is going to help push some of these projects to be successful. And even as these projects roll out, we don't have enough people to fill our seats currently. So we have this really big need, this really big gap. So my advice to you as new people going into healthcare is to build your technical skills, build your IT skills, build your emotional intelligence, your human interaction skills, do all of those things. And you are going to go into these organizations as a force, and you're going to be able to build a much bigger career than you think you can right now. It's going to be amazing. So I think we're all a little afraid, but I think for the right people that put in the right effort, you're going to be well positioned for the future.
Thank you so much. And I did see a lot more Ys than Ns in that chat. So it appears that the people who are concerned are not alone. That's great. Greg, what advice do you have for the people who are concerned about how AI will affect their career prospects?
Thanks, Michelle. So the advice that I'd give for people that are concerned about how AI will affect their career prospects, don't think that you need to compete with AI. Learn to work with it. AI does some things really exceptionally. Speed, pattern recognition, automation, but there's some things that only sentient beings, at least at this point with AI, do really that it can't do, like our judgment, the human nuances. Um, the people who will thrive will be those who combine AI capabilities and critical thinking, because AI is, once you start to use it as an augmented tool and start to learn how to guide it, it's really going to help advance your critical thinking and decision making. I like to really think about AI and myself. I'm really an AI augmented professional because I use AI to help augment my task and make me more efficient and allow me to get more things done. Uh, so that's one thing I think it's important. The other thing is, build skills that AI can't easily replicate. The reality is that AI is going to take over certain repetitive tasks. And so it's really important to look at what are the critical skills that can't be easily replaced by AI. And some of those things are how we interact with people on our teams and the interdependencies that go along with working in large and small organizations. Also, being a good storyteller. I'm sure AI can do some level of storytelling, but there's something different about a person who's learned to do storytelling to connect with other people, and help them share a vision and get excited about something. I would also look at how we lead, and taking on leadership responsibilities and using that to influence those around us. At current time, I don't think AI can truly lead human teams. It may be able to guide human teams, but I think right now, really understanding where your skill is in leading other people is really quite a differentiator from AI and what it can't really replace. And look, at the end of the day, AI is great at generating answers. It is. I think many people who have become good prompt engineers, you can get great answers, but at the end of the day, it relies on a human to ask the right question. And then don't think you need to become an expert in AI, but you don't need to become a programmer. But what you should understand is what AI cannot do, where it adds value in your field, and then I think one that's most critical is learn how to prompt and then guide it effectively. I'll stop there so my other panelists can throw in some others. Thank you.
That's really great. I really appreciate everything you all said. Marjorie talked about the emotional intelligence, and that's such a critical thing. Greg mentioned stories. I have a quick story. I received an email from a former student asking for a letter of recommendation. The student did not register for this event, but the student signed the email with insert name here. So it's pretty clear to me that entire email that student wrote me, which was a lovely email, was really beautiful, was not written by that student because that person normally signs their name with their name. That's an example where you're not augmenting, you're saying, AI do everything. Students, you do not want to get in the habit of just sending stuff that AI did without your using your brain and your critical thinking and your personality and your emotional intelligence to make it your own. Give it something, ask it for suggestions, look at the suggestions, make it your own, and then submit it, send it, copy, paste that. Don't make it something that AI did, because we can tell. And why should anyone hire you if all you're going to do is give them output from AI? So that's my story. Don't have insert name here on anything you send anybody. All right, next we have Terry and then Aurora.
I love Marjorie's and Greg's, responses. I mean, they're so spot on. And I'll add, one thing we learned at NASA over the decades with disasters, the shuttle failing, is that often, and NASA is arguably one of the most preeminent technological organizations ever in the history of mankind. What we learned is that often it's not the technical aspects that causes organizations to fail, but the human and the cultural, the interpersonal, the social aspects, right? And I see you guys nodding. I think in all of our organizations, we see that happening, So I think that, in terms of career development, one of the crucial factors is interpersonal skills, right? We're social beings and we have a powerful desire to connect with other people, even in the workplace, maybe especially in the workplace, right? And I don't know if AI can replicate that, So I think Greg said it too. I mean, we have to connect as human beings, and I think we have a leg up on AI. They're not going to replace us. They're not going to replace us, AI, if we're able to really connect powerfully with customers, other people, co-workers, because that's our advantage, right? And I would add just a little bit of a twist, Michelle, if you will. I mentioned this to you earlier. Research shows that people tend to be drawn more to those who are perceived as authentic, right? And the question to me, I think for all of us, is how authentic can AI become, right? I mean, that's going to be a really interesting question. And I think, no doubt, AI will get much better at generating human personas. But I think there will always be some, to borrow a term from poker, a tell, right? A sign that marks it as artificial. Something missing that is innately human that we could spot right away. And we relate to that. We react to that, right? So, and the reason why that happens is we, as humans, as a species, are so idiosyncratic. And you'll like this, Michelle, because I went back to your marketing class, irrationally rational. We are rational.
Extremely irrational, yeah.
So I think everybody who are in the DBA, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? And these are things that algorithms cannot predict. Maybe one day, I don't know, I hope not, right? The bottom line is I do think cultivating our own sense of authenticity, and you guys have heard the term, and it's important. It really is. Getting in touch with our true selves, right? It's a journey of self-discovery and making sure others see us as such. So there's two parts of it. You got to know who you are and then make sure that people know who you are, right? And I think that's important, right? Because that can help separate us from what's artificially created and hopefully carve out an advantage in the marketplace. So that's my take. So.
Thank you so much for that. And last but not least, we have Aurora.
Yeah, so some advice that I think top of mind is AI means something different for every industry. So some critical advice is understand what AI means in your industry or in the industry that you're going to be going into. And one way you can do that, and I'm one that likes tangible advice, like what can I do post this call, is type into AI, like what is AI in my industry? Like, what is the future of AI in my industry? How do I prepare for that future? Whether you're a new person going into the job market, you're existing in the job market and maybe want a career shift, or even if you want to get a promotion, understand like what skills leveraging AI. I always think of AI as my assistant, my personal unpaid assistant. What can I do to prepare for tangible things in my professional development to actually enhance, my skill set. And then I do those things. Or I look at the list and I'm like, oh, well, I might not be an expert here, but let me use my network and understand how I can leverage that. So it's not just reliance on AI, but maybe I can share these ideas with other people who uniformly also have these challenges, and you can scale your personal strengths with it. The other advice is primarily just like understand, be an AI advocate. Like, don't just bury your head in the sand and say, I'm never going to use AI or my industry will never use AI, because more and more what we see is even industries that have never even thought about using AI, and that's what I see professionally. They have an AI initiative now that they never had before because they never thought it was going to cross their industry. And so I would just urge you to take a peek at it and understand how can I leverage it in my personal daily life, and then how can I use that in my professional.
Thank you so much for that. Before I give Christine and Raul an opportunity to add if they'd like to, I actually have a question for Rob. Rob, someone has written to me in the chat that they don't see the Q&A section, and I don't either. Is that open? Rob is our technical expert who's here to help us with these things.
Yeah, on your Zoom toolbar, you'll see a three dot and it says more. And if you click on that,
Q&A.
you'll see Q&A and click on Q&A and you could enter your questions there.
Great. So if everyone heard that, you just go to the three dots at the right, you click on them, and then there's breakout rooms, polls and quizzes, and then Q&A. And if you go to Q&A, you can post your question there. If you're really struggling, and I don't see anything in Q&A, I'll look at the chat to see if there's any questions there. Okay, now we're going to give Christine and Raul. Do either of you have anything to add to what Marjorie, Terry, and Aurora and Greg shared?
I'll do a quick one. I really like Marjorie's idea or recommendation on just learning the skills, the technical skills and the human skill, because especially in UX, is actually a little bit more than just the human skills and the tech skills. One of my prediction is actually that all of those roles going to be in one. So right now, in the product development process, we usually have one product manager, two designers, four developers working on a project. So imagine you have 7 people working on one project, one product, one feature together. My prediction, and we can come back and check it in 5 years if it's going to be true or not, is that role is all going to roll into one, because AI is expediting our work, is making us more efficient, helping us with productivity, helping us vibe code in 2 weeks, or actually 2 hours. I was able to do a site in 2 hours. So all of those responsibilities can roll into one role. So I think if there's one piece of advice I'll give to students or anyone who's looking into how they can include AI into their toolbox, it's really learn all those auxiliary skills, anything that's around you, learn those and make yourself more strategic.
That's great. And I loved Aurora's suggestion, ask AI. Ask AI, tell it your industry. And you can ask it several times, because every time you ask, you get a different question, I get a different answer. It's not always the same answer. That's such a great idea. And thank you so much, Christine, for adding that. Raul, do you want to add anything? Is there any advice that you want to give that hasn't been already stated by one of the other 5?
I will go quickly. I will say, if you are curious about AI, use it in your personal time. Just talk to it and try to validate what it is returning you. As you start correcting AI, you will learn the critical skill that is going to be required in future jobs, which is to identify when AI is going wrong, and when it goes wrong, how to correct it. And it's just by practice you are going to learn that skill. There is no other way.
Fantastic. Practice is the way we learn. So fantastic. Okay, next question. This is beyond our personal concerns. This is about societal impact. What are your concerns and hopes? And by the way, thank you. I see some Q&A questions, so I'm excited about that. What are your concerns and hopes for the impact AI will have on society? Raul, we just heard from you, and we're going to hear from you again. So we'll go Raul, Marjorie, Terry, and Christine, and then we'll also give Greg and Aurora a chance to answer if they feel like their answer hasn't been provided yet. Great.
Sure. When I think about this, I always think about a very favorite place of mine in Bay Area, the Computer History Museum in Mountain View. There you get to see, in 18th century, we had only 5 computers across the globe, and people used to do coding on punch cards and for months, and take those punch cards to process the program, right? And from there, today we have in everyone's hand, we have this smartphones with so much compute in it. And now with AI, we are crossing another spectrum. We are going to the world where we are going to have a very smart assistants all the time around us, who can get any information, any knowledge that we seek within minutes, right? So I look at AI as a great equalizer. If you look at today's society, we are in a little bit of distracted pyramid where there are handful of few which are controlling large amount of resources, and because of that they have ability to execute on a lot of the projects which are just not accessible to a lot of us who are just doing the jobs, right? But with AI, if you become that, if you are that great strategist and you know how to deploy these agents to do work for you, you can go toe to toe and compete with these people with the resources and really make a difference. And that's why I feel that with AI in future, the way I see it changing the society is going to reverse that pyramid on its head, and we will have a lot of smart entrepreneurs who will be at the top of the pyramid, and they will be lifting all of us upward.
That's wonderful. I like that there's, because we always hear about the concerns, so it's nice to hear the hopes. And I really hope you're right, Raul. That would be a wonderful outcome. And thank you again for the question posters. I see one question is appearing multiple times. I promise to get to it. Okay, next we have Marjorie. Tell us a little bit about your hopes and concerns for the effect that AI is going to have on society as a whole.
Yeah, so I was listening to Raul, amazing point, and I hope you're right in that we see more of that, and that's our future. Um, a little, and again, I know we're talking about society, but I'm going to go a little micro. One of the things that I hope we see and that I've experienced in my own life and career are people that may not have the same level of opportunities, and this is in the same vein as what Raul was talking about. They're able to use AI to open doors, build skills, get access to things that they wouldn't have otherwise. So myself as an example, I learned Python from ChatGPT, right? I was able to, learn how to do R through ChatGPT. R is a programming language. So it's an amazing tool, and it's very patient, it's very educational. So I think we're going to see an opportunity or a future where people that wouldn't have had these opportunities in the past, they're going to be able to use some of these AI tools, especially if they're using their critical thinking skills with it, to really develop their own skills, to build, themselves strong in the workforce, and to really push through barriers that they may not have been able to push through without these added skills. So similar to Raul, but a little bit different. I think we are going to see a future where there is going to be some disruption in some of those layers, but it's going to be because of people skilling up because of these new tools. With that said, I do have some serious concerns. Again, I'm aging myself again. I have a 23-year-old who's a senior in college right now, and I see some of his classmates' schoolwork. I've had, not in my current role, but in my prior role in other hospitals. Michelle, I've experienced what you've experienced with some of the emails where it says insert name here. And again, some of my son's classmates, you see clearly their work. They just put it into one of the AIs and out came an answer, hallucinations and all, really bad stuff, and just posted it. So I think we're also at a risk for people becoming overly reliant on some of these AI tools and, for lack of a better word, dumbing down a generation. So I think as long as we see it as additive and we use our critical thinking skills and we learn to partner with these tools, it's going to be this amazing future, just as Raul described, and I can't wait for it. We just got to keep everyone going down that pathway.
Yeah, using it the right way. Thank you so much for stressing that. And it's very sad that insert name here is probably not a one-time. I'm not the only one to get that. Great. So we're going to move on to Terry and then Christine, and then we'll give a chance to the other two people to answer if there's something they want to add.
Yeah, so I'll go from Marjorie's like micro perspective, zoom out to societal, even to space, maybe. So, but yeah, I mean, we recognize, as Rahul and Marjorie said, that AI is growing powerful and pervasive, and it has tremendous upside, right? But I think we also recognize that it could pose a threat to human agency, human values one day, right? If it becomes too powerful. So I think on a collective level, I think we should ensure that there are safeguards. I think that's the term that Rahul made. So AI doesn't develop faster than our ability to use it wisely. So since I am in the space station, I'm stuck out here in space, I want to recommend this movie if you haven't seen it. 2001: The Space Odyssey, right? You can look it up. I think Michelle, you found it online. At the critical moment in the film, Hal, the computer, tells the main character the classic line, "I'm sorry, Dave, I'm afraid I can't do that," which meant that Hal wouldn't open the latch back into the spacecraft, and he allowed one of the crew members to die in space, right? So I hope that we as individuals can do what we can to avoid this kind of scenario, right? And here's the part where I'm going to sort of like speak from Terry Pagan on my soapbox that you've given us. I think as voters and consumers, we should voice our concerns about using AI responsibly. And that means we must, as Marjorie said, stay educated about where AI is. We got to stay ahead of it, right? I think Rahul said that too. We got to know what its capabilities are. And even as important is demand transparency from large corporations. With our votes and dollars, we're consumers to ensure that AI is deployed responsibly. So I'm off my soapbox now. So
thank you so much. And Terry has been harping on me to see the film. So, and I had seen it. It is a brilliant film. It's unbelievable. It's a 1968 film, 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's free on HBO. You can rent it for like $3 on Amazon, and it's probably available some other places. But it's an unbelievable film because it's actually talking about the future, and it was made, decades ago. It's well worth watching. But it isn't super fun at the end, but it's definitely something that makes you think. So thank you, Terry. Next, we have Christine. Christine, what do you think in terms of the hopes and maybe the concerns for what's going to happen in society given
Well,
AI?
I'm gonna start by saying that I am just an optimist. I always start off being an optimist. So when I started the EDBA program, it was right around when ChatGPT came out. I was 100% in to the whole AI thing. I was like, this is gonna change the world. This is gonna change our lives. Um, and slowly but steadily, and especially because I've gone into academia teaching students, my 100% every single year or so, it dropped to maybe 90, and then the next year to 80, and then to 70. And I think the reason why my enthusiasm and my optimist personality has started to rate AI a little bit lower and lower as the year goes is because I see that abuse. Students are abusing it. People are abusing it. They're over relying. All the topics that our panelists have talked about already. Like people are just over relying on AI. I've had students where they very similar to yours, Michelle, and very similar to yours, Marjorie, your son's friends. I for one of my assignments on Project Pitch, they copied the entire thing, including the grade divider, including, would you like, at the very end, would you like to create a visual map for you now? So students are definitely, from the student side, they're not reading, they're not evaluating. So I think it's really important for people to know how to use AI, especially LLM. It's so powerful. So much power has been given to people who don't know how to use it. And that's why all of our panelists are saying you just have to try it. You just have to continue to learn, continuous improvement, continuous learning. You need to learn because every single time you learn you use it, you start picking up these words. Like you start picking up that M dashes are majorly used in anything that they create, or the sentence structure that starts with together. Every single time the more you use, the more you recognize the patterns so that you as a human can go ahead and make those changes, make this more of a human output, use it as an augmentation, use it as a tool instead of an over reliance. And one paper that Michelle and I worked on also is on how should, like, what should we do? Going back to Aurora, you want to always leave with something, right? Like instead of just putting the entire, your heart and soul and your prompt into the LLM and just use whatever the output comes out and copy and paste it into your document, your presentation. You should start with the framing. Really spend that time understanding the situation, what that problem is that you're trying to solve, and do a really good not just prompting, but framing the situation. Because when you're just prompting, you're just typing in things that you want a machine to create for you. But framing the situation is different because you have your human insights, you have your observation. You start thinking about what the possibilities are first. After the framing, you have that interaction. Go into the second step where you have that interaction with your LLM, with your AI to make those tweaks, because sometimes people just end it right there. They just copy and paste. But instead, having that interaction and asking for different options as well, so that you can have that judgment and the evaluation at the end. You're judging the output, you're evaluating the output, and you're picking the best output for your need. So that's why the human agency needs to be involved in that process, because without that, that's when human will decay. That would be my concern. That over reliance, we no longer have that critical thinking anymore. So that's my concern. But my hope, going back to me being an optimist, my hope is that we will all learn how to handle technology like this. And there's always a curve, right? I really feel like back in the dot-com age, or back when mobile phones were first introduced, there's always a learning curve. So it's all about, how do we expedite our skills, learn as much as possible so that we can get to the end where we're mature, with mature usage of the tool, with ethical usage of the tool, so that we can maintain that human agency.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think one of the things I tell my students when I can tell something came from AI, either because there's a word and I ask them about the word and they're not sure what it means, but they used it twice, and it didn't come from them, is why should anyone hire you if you're not contributing to this interaction? So
Yeah.
when I have a problem and I'm using AI, I'll go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. If anyone's ever worked for me, they'll know that I do that with humans too. And humans get annoyed because I'm like, well, what about this? Well, what about this? Excuse me, can you do this? Wait a minute. Can you organize it? A second thought, why don't you do it this way? And then it becomes me and AI, me enhanced by AI, which you all keep saying, as opposed to just me asked to do something, give it to AI, take the AI thing, hand it to the person. So why does that person need me again? Not at all. So yeah, I love what you all are talking about.
And it's through that process too, right? That conversation, there's friction, and through friction we learn, we reflect, and we end up building those skills so that we can grow from our previous spot.
Absolutely. Okay, I want to leave time for the Q&A from the audience, especially because three people asked pretty much the same question, so that question is going to get some attention for sure. But I do want to check, Aurora and Greg, do either of you have anything to add about societal impact that wasn't touched on by one of your four panel colleagues? Aurora, Greg, you can just say yes, no, unmute, and
Yes.
yes. Okay, give it to us. Give an abbreviated version because I want to make
An
sure.
abbreviated version.
Okay.
Like Christine, so I'll go with the hope. And Marjorie really, her statement resonated with me about learning Python. I think one of the beautiful things about AI is that, the democratization of knowledge. So people can get expertise instantly, which was very hard to get before. When I wanted to learn about coding, I would have to go and pay for classes, and now I can learn this through ChatGPT. So I think it's phenomenal. Having that power now, and being able to learn Python, which seemed so opaque before. And then, I think on the concern side, and as a parent, what I get most concerned about with my kids is the loss of human connection. I think the more and more we start to use these tools and increased automation and communication, and the no longer, use, and again, maybe I'm dating myself, but no longer picking up a phone to call somebody and just have a conversation around something. I think it really reduces the genuine human interaction. And in particular, something that I can acknowledge I'm not very good at, but having empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Aurora, do you want to add anything to that?
I think for the sake of time, we can move forward. Everything my co-panelists had to say were phenomenal, and I agree with.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So we have another question, but I want to give attention We're going to get to our last question because the panel has seen that question, but I want to give some attention to a question that was asked repeatedly by different people. And I'm not sure, I guess, Isabella, you asked it first, so maybe I'll let you ask it out loud. And several people echoed it, which is why I'm thinking this is the question. Not only was it the first question posted, but it was also posted by other people. I see Isabella, I see Nair, I see someone else also posted the same question. So the question is, oh, no, wait, no, I said that I would have the person. So Isabella, if you are willing to unmute yourself, Rob, can you give Isabella Castellan permission to unmute herself
Yes,
and
ma'am.
ask her question? Because Isabella, it's a question many people have, and I think we should give you an opportunity to hear that answer as well as the other people who asked it.
Hi, so my question was, are there any AI courses or certifications you would suggest doing to get ahead before entering the job market?
Such a great question. And I guess I'll call on the panelists in an order if you have that answer. Aurora, do you have any courses you would suggest?
Yeah, so I think in a past life, I used to work at LinkedIn. And I think in any professional setting, LinkedIn is obviously the professional network. That's where you build your resume socially. LinkedIn has a great feature called LinkedIn Learning. If you go onto LinkedIn Learning and you type in, how do I learn like AI for beginners or AI in your industry, et cetera, what it will do is it will populate a list of courses for you. And the fantastic thing, not that you'll get certified, but you can add a badge on your LinkedIn profile. So after you complete the course, you can just basically add that badge. So when you're either, up for promotion or you're showing your professional development or you're just entering the job market, those recruiters can see, hey, they've actually taken time to enhance their AI skills. And it shows just a record of all of the courses you've been taking and how you can leverage that. So that's how I would go about that question.
Fantastic. And I know there's courses on Coursera and edX. Do any of the rest of the panel have specific courses they recommend? Raul, I think you were recommending one when we had a previous conversation.
Yeah, so there is a AI for Everyone
Right.
by Andrew Ng on Coursera, which I highly recommend if you are totally unknown about what AI is, definitely take that. There are some strategy courses as well, which will be good for learning. But I will suggest, because I don't know your background, what job you're looking for, the best thing you can do is ask AI what courses you should be doing, what certification you should be doing for the job that you're looking for. And I will tell you that's the best answer you're gonna get.
That's a great answer. Does anyone else want to add to that? Marjorie or Terry or Christine or Greg?
Yeah, I would add one thing. I know everybody's looking at different fields. Some people are entry level, some people are different levels in their career. My advice would be yes, do the LinkedIn, yes, do the Coursera. Those are both great. Also look at your professional associations related to your field. So if you're a business, if you're healthcare, if you are an engineer or something else, there's always professional associations. Everybody is doing conferences. Everybody is doing CEU courses on AI. So look at ones that are in your expertise, your field, or the field that you're looking at going into after you graduate.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice. I know the American Marketing Association has courses, and as someone in the well-being space, I have multiple events that are about well-being in AI that I'm now being invited to because of that well-being education network. So that's such great advice. Does anyone else on the panel have any other courses or suggestions for where to?
At NASA, we worked with UC Berkeley a lot. And I know UC Berkeley Extension has agentic AI courses. I actually spoke at one of the classes a few years ago. They're pricey. I don't know what Coursera is. Stanford has similar offerings too, right? From their executive or professional programs. And you get a certificate often, so that's good. But I was also going to recommend maybe the community colleges in the area. They may be a little bit cheaper from a credit cost per credit standpoint. And obviously that's not Berkeley or Stanford, right? But it's another way to at least get some coursework. So.
Yeah, and I will say St. Mary's has some AI courses as well. So if you're a student here and you see a course that's AI specific, and it's going to help you move towards your graduation goals. That makes even more sense. And more of us, I mean, I taught a course that didn't have AI in the title, but I added AI to it. So more and more faculty at St. Mary's, especially in the business school, are integrating AI into whatever we're teaching. So you can sort of, for those of you who are students, do your research. Which classes are doing that? And then, of course, there's all these outside resources as well. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Yeah, I actually have one. I actually don't think anyone should be paying for these certificates right now, because in a year or two, it's going to be obsolete. It's going to be outdated by that time. How I usually find my information, I actually, not LinkedIn Learning Aurora, but just LinkedIn in general. I just look up AI courses in design, AI courses in Figma, AI courses in vibe coding. And then you usually get a whole bunch of the most recent posts telling you, hey, check out these tools, watch this video of how I use it. That's how I learn my AI skills, especially it's more technical, because you're learning from the most recent. And I think the application part is that the most important too. You can learn, but if you sit on old information a year later, 6 months later, it's going to be obsolete. So the application part, showing if you're a student, learn how to use Claude and then use it in one of your class projects. Learn how to vibe code and apply it as a final project. So you can use it in your portfolio. You can talk about it in your interview. You have something to show your like when you're interviewing your managers. So I would say that's probably what I would recommend instead of spending thousands and thousands of dollars on certificates.
Yeah, that's great. And it's interesting you brought up vibe coding because someone mentioned that in the chat as well. So, yeah, and look around and, if it's a free course, you can always drop out. So shop around, see what platform or modality is best for you. And yeah, that's great. Really good point. Thank you so much. And I hope that answered Isabella and everybody else who asked questions similar to that. I will get to the Q&A, but we have one final question before we go back to Q&A. I just saw that one coming up again and again, which is AI in our lives. So just for the people and please share something you haven't shared before. So don't reiterate something you've already shared. But if each of you, I'll give everyone an opportunity, can share an example of how AI has changed your life, either in a professional context or in a personal context. Again, something that you haven't brought up yet. And if you don't have anything that you want to share about it because you've already brought it up, you can say pass and we'll move on to questions from the audience because we have like 10 of them, which is fantastic. We'll start with Greg. Greg, how have you been using it? And I remember your answer when we had a conversation, so I hope you bring it up. It was a cool answer about interacting with others about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually what I was just going to revisit, because where I found AI had changed my life was expanding my curiosity. And mind you, I've always been very curious. I've always wanted to know more about things and deep dive, because I'm just fascinated, because I know that my knowledge is very small, compared with everything that's available. And so when I talk to people who work in different professions and they share what they do, I'm so fascinated, in particular if it's a domain that I don't know much about. So what I found is it allowed me to explore areas where I previously had very little knowledge. And what was great was it allowed me to quickly build an understanding in a meaningful way, and also give me some confidence that I could actually have an intelligent conversation around it. So in my personal life, what I found both fun and interesting is talking to people around me and its influence on them, and how they interact with it. Because some people interact with it in a much different way than I do, and I'm like, wow, and so it sparks more conversation within my network. And so, you know, we start to have these conversations that if AI wasn't there, I don't know if we'd have this conversation. So, for example, I'm a bit of an exercise nut, and so I'm part of the 5 a.m. club. So the 5 a.m. club is kind of a unique club because there's only a few people that are that crazy to get up that early in the morning and want to go to the gym and suffer. And so it's been fun because there's a couple of people that I've gotten to know, and we've started talking. And you kind of notice sometimes when they're in the gym, they're doing something different. Like, oh, that's interesting. I haven't seen that. And so we said, and so I started talking. Hey, where do you want? Oh, I put in to AI what my current routine is and some of the things that I'm doing and what I'm looking for and it gave me this output. I'm like, oh, so then we start talking about not only, exercise, but then recovery strategies and then the science behind performance. And so it's really neat that the how it both shapes our learning, but then it's also helped create connection, which
It's
is
real
I
people.
just find yeah, which I just find fascinating.
Yeah, I loved that you brought up talking to people about how they use AI and getting away from that fear we have that we're reducing our social connection by having social connection about this technology. So yeah, that is just very great. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and curiosity. I mean, that's the competitive edge you have is asking and asking and asking and wanting to learn and being a lifelong learner. I want to reiterate something I think Christine and others said as well, that it's not like you're going to master AI and then you don't have to study anymore. You're going to take these 3 courses and now you're going to know everything there is to know because it's changing, it's growing. What it can do is changing. The industry you're in, how AI is being used is changing, and other aspects of the industry you're in, other than AI, are constantly changing. So whether you're about to graduate or still in school or graduated a while ago, lifelong learning, you don't have to be a registered student to make that commitment. And honestly, if you don't make that commitment to lifelong learning about AI and everything else, you're going to be obsolete because there's going to be other people that are keeping up. So I like that several of you have talked about, yeah, you're going to have to keep refreshing. There's going to be that one course, and then 6 months later, maybe you'll take another one. Fantastic. Okay, Raul, and then Christine and Aurora, and we will give Marjorie and Terry a chance to add if they feel that there's some cool way to use it that hasn't been shared yet.
So
Raul.
I will go on the personal side. So I suffer with hypertension and I wear this ring, Aura ring, and it has helped me a lot because when I get into the problem solving and day-to-day meetings, sometimes it's stressful and I don't realize it that it's exerting my body. But the ring knows it. It's monitoring my vitals and it will point me out that, today this meeting was stressful. You might want to take a 10-minute break and calm down. And that's amazing, like, because I will never realize that I'm stressing myself, I'm affecting my health, but the ring understands and it interject, and that interjection is it helps a lot for my health and longevity.
The ring knows. I love it. Thank you so much. And health is such an important area that we all have to really think about in these turbulent times that we live in. So thanks for talking about how it's actually improved your mental well-being and your physical health. That's fantastic. Sorry for the weird lighting. It's gotten dark and my lighting isn't very good. Next, we have Christine and then Aurora.
Yeah, so for me, I think AI has made me feel like I'm smarter when I probably am not there yet. But quoting Albert Einstein, he always says, the more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. I think AI has definitely made me feel that way because it knows every single topic. I try to challenge it, but you can never challenge it. It just knows so much more than you. But it also opens up this entirely new door for us to learn a lot more than we used to be able to. So that's the part that I love. I'm not gonna go dwell into this one because I actually want to answer Judith's question in Q&A. That's really good. So I'm gonna pass from now on, but then I want to address that question.
Okay, sure. Aurora, I know your answer to this question and it's
Yeah.
super fun. So I hope you're going to share.
Yeah.
Because you and I use AI the same way for different things, okay, just tell us about it. How would
Okay.
you use AI?
I feel like you're pumping it up a lot. So
Sorry.
the way that I used AI, I feel like my professional blends into my personal and sort of how I prepare for stuff. I'm a big planner, love to just like understand. I'm a big traveler also. And so I had my husband's never been to Vegas. And I was like, AI, can you help me build a trip? And I've been to Vegas a few times, but can you help me build a trip plan of what to see, what shows to go to? When do I see the Sphere? He wants to go to this concert, what places to eat at, et cetera, et cetera. And because obviously Vegas is a strip, it helped plan not only when to go to stuff, but where to maximize our routes, like how to where to stop in, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all to say. It also helped me when's a great time to book my flight, what hotels are conveniently, and then what's the pros and cons for these hotels. So I think it's just it took the amount of time that I would plan into a very small consolidated plan, and now I have more information to enhance our experience.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I had a conference in Los Angeles, and it was in downtown Los Angeles, which is not normally where I go in Los Angeles. And I had 6 hours before my flight, and I did the same thing. And it was literally telling me, okay, I went here. I still have 2 more hours. Where should I go? I'm on the corner of this and this. And it would tell me where to go. And there was a bookstore it kept telling me to go to. And I was like, I don't want to go to a bookstore. There's bookstores. I've seen bookstores. No, you have to go to the bookstore. I mean, it was very interesting. It kept pushing me to this bookstore, which is the coolest bookstore I've ever been to. So if you're ever in Los Angeles, it's a recommendation from Michelle Strahovitz and an AI bot. Go to the last bookstore in Los Angeles, which I would not have discovered if it wasn't for AI. And I love that Aurora used it for the same thing. Okay, Marjorie and Terry, do either of you want to share how you use it in your personal or professional life in a way that hasn't been touched on yet?
So it was touched on, but I want to add a little bit to it if I can. So last year I went to Hong Kong. I am not like a big international traveler. I have been to Brussels and Barcelona before, but Hong Kong, again, very different. I was going solo for the very first part of the trip. And let me tell you, like Aurora, Michelle, what you guys are talking about, these AI tools are so amazing with telling you what you have to go see, like the Big Buddha, go to the fisherman village, but make sure you take the blue taxi. The other taxis won't go to that island. Like it really takes you through a lot of those cultural things. And you can ask those clarifying questions. Where can I go to get a meal and speak English and not have any issues? Like you're able to really do that and do it well with domestic travel, absolutely, like what you guys are talking about, but also in other cultures and with international travel. So it is door opening and life changing what you can get the confidence to do when you have an AI tool there supporting you.
Yeah, and the more specific your question and the more you tell it what you like and what you don't like I'm willing to go to a museum, but I don't want to go to 8 museums, right? I really like art, but not super modern art. Then it'll tailor it to you. So the more information you give it in every domain, including vacation, the better it will be at giving you the kind of food and the kind of show and the kind of everything else that you want. That is great. Terry, do you want to add anything?
Marjorie, did you use those glasses, AI translation glasses?
Oh
Visit.
goodness. No, but I am supposed to go to Serbia later this year, and that is on my list of things to try.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
So
you see the translation on your glasses. That's how powerful AI is, right?
you've used it before?
Yeah,
Oh
it's really
wow. Okay.
cool.
We're gonna talk later, Michelle. Thank you. We're gonna talk, Christina.
You should have talked to her about it. Sorry, about Hong Kong, because she's from Hong Kong.
Yes.
Oh,
Live and learn, but she's not from Serbia, so you'll need a life for that. Okay, fantastic. Terry, do you have anything you want to add before we
Really
go to?
quick and very more mundane. So I got to deal with like some paperwork with the government agency for some things to be done. And I know this agency is using AI now, and it sped up the process. I was amazed. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of less bureaucracy, so that is great. Okay, so we've got some Q&A questions, and I guess Christine would like to hear Judith ask Judith's question. So I'll allow Christine to select, and then I'll select from there. The event ends at 8 o'clock. We do have 20 minutes. If anyone needs to leave before that, you don't have to write me in the chat for permission. I completely understand, but we will be here until 8 o'clock or until we run out of questions. Judith, can you unmute yourself? And Rob, if you can give her the permission to do that, and hopefully she'll turn on her camera and we'll hear her question. And we will let Christine take the first stab, but anybody else on the panel can also answer it.
Hi, can you all hear me?
We can hear you. Oh,
I
my
apologize. I'm
goodness.
suffering from seasonal allergies. I don't want to subject everyone to what that looks like over here right now. So I'm going to keep my camera off. But I was curious, particularly for those panelists that have experience in the design of these technical tools, if they could speak to the potential implications of the expanding technology in this area around resource consumption, particularly any potential impacts on what the growth of AI is going to do to the demand for energy?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked this question, Judith, because I thought about whether or not to put that in the doom and gloom when we talked about concerns and societal impact, but I didn't. But I'm glad you put it in there because that's the thing that I actually have some students telling me that I don't want to ever touch it. They're in UX, but they said I don't ever want to touch any AI tools because I know how much power consumption it's taking, how much water it's using to cool off those servers. And at least from my viewpoint, I feel like there's always growing pain that we're starting out by with all these energy consumptions at this point. But when it starts to mature a little bit, we're going to have better technology that use less power consumption. We will build servers that are less, it's not going to be as hot. You don't need as much water. So I think it's just that growing pain and that consumption period where technology is trying to understand what they need to focus on before the maturation of that. But other panelists, what do you guys think?
So I will try to tackle this. So it's another problem for humanity, right? As we grow our need for AI, we have to figure out how we are going to source it. One of the key sourcing challenge is the power, and how do we generate enough power to keep running those data centers? So I'm not promoting it because I do follow that stock closely, but read about Bloom Energy. Bloom Energy creates basically uh, on site. So it is not a power plant, but it creates on site your hydrogen fuel generators, which are generating the power. And if you look at, for I can talk about Amazon. Amazon is all their data center. They do generate their power themselves, right? So it's a problem to be solved, and the companies are solving it. So I don't see it as the AI is consuming power, which is for humans. It's just another thing we have to solve for. And we are solving it with innovative solutions.
And I think this is another area where we can vote with our dollars. If you know a
Right.
company is doing it more ethically, then you can choose to work with that company. That's also true in AI, not just regarding energy use, but certainly some companies you're reading that they're more committed to the privacy of the AI user than others. And we can choose to be a paid customer of one and not the other. So that's a great point. And it is really good to hear that there's innovation in that direction. That's encouraging.
And some companies are also pledging to pay more, especially in those community. Like Microsoft a few months ago, they pledged to pay more for their consumption in that community. Instead of paying a certain rate that normal electricity consumption would cost, they're paying more because they understand how important it is for the infrastructure, how much it's taking from the community, et cetera, et cetera. So companies are trying. Of course, it's not there yet, but I think it will get there.
Okay,
I
that's
just
great.
add that, so Bloom Energy actually was a company that came up, that spun out of NASA, a NASA research project, and was founded by an Indian national who used initially the use case, and you know this, Rahul, was to give power, clean power to rural villages in India. And it's really fascinating. I was there at the beginning of the company. I knew the owner, K.R. Sridhar, but he took it from that use case 20 years later. Now it's it's being used for these AI centers. Who knew? And it's a fantastic story. And I'll add to what Christine said about, socially responsible. That is one of the arguments that companies like Blue Origin is making to putting AI data centers in space in what's called low Earth orbit. So, but the big but is that there are other externalities, negative probably, that could also accrue to space, right? Because you're putting more things in space, and what is the long-term effect on the space environment? So, and just real briefly, the technical thing is that space is a vacuum. You don't have the heat sink and the power problems that you do with Earth. And Rahul can probably go into that more, but it is an advantage.
Well, yeah, and right now if you look at, I feel sometimes you have to look at the other people, how they are solving the problem. China is deploying huge solar farms. Their megawatt capacity is increasing day by day much faster than us because just a trade-off. They have chosen the solar as the destination energy. We are still saying there is a nuclear, and then we are exploring other avenues as well. But it's a problem to be solved.
Yeah, green and clean energy are definitely things that need to be explored in many contexts, especially in this one. That's great. Okay, we have a couple other questions. A lot of people are asking about skills for college students. So I'm seeing quite a few questions that are similar. So I'm going to call on someone who asked a question that was similar to other people's questions, but was the first one to ask it. Hold on, let me see who I'll call on. It was kind of touched on, but maybe people want to touch on it again. Gabrielle, would you like to unmute yourself and turn on your camera? Because I think people are sick of looking at me. I'm having such a bad hair day and I'm attacked by mosquitoes earlier today. Let's look at someone who doesn't have these problems. Yeah. Gabrielle, can we unmute you? Going once, going twice.
Hello?
Fabulous. Yay. Gabrielle, why don't you share your question with us? That'd be great.
My question was, with AI advancing so quickly across industries, what skills do you think us college students should focus on right now to stay relevant in the workforce over the next few years?
Yeah, and some of this was answered already, but since multiple people asked it, I thought it was worth giving it a shot. So does anyone want to take that question?
We also want to ask Gabriel what his major is, because that changes the
Ooh,
recommendation.
great point.
Oh, I'm a finance major.
Finance major. Okay. Any
Well, I'm just
finance
gonna say,
major?
people were, regardless of finance, I mean, it's something that pretty much every single person said. You have to have an answer to why should I hire you? And it's not because you're going to ask AI to do everything that you're asked to do. So your personal skills matter even in finance. I mean, it depends on what area of finance, obviously. If you're client facing, it's different than if you're number crunching. But I think those personal skills, the emotional intelligence, your personality, that's going to matter in an interview. And then I'd love to hear from the rest of the panel on the technical aspect because I'm not a finance person, so that's not the area where I have it.
I can try to give from my personal experience. So I helped design exercise for finance student last semester with my chair because it was relevant to my research as well. And the way I designed that exercise for student, it needed them to work with AI and validate what AI was giving them and then use it to do their financial activity. And that's going to be the world you are going into. Wherever you are going to go, your research that you are going to do with the data, you are not going to be doing it in a traditional way using Excels and statistics. You will be using AI. So you need to get familiarized with how you tell AI to do statistical analysis, quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis. And you need to learn the skills on how to validate what AI is telling you. Are you setting the right guardrails? Are you providing enough context? One of the questions I saw about hallucination happen when you haven't provided enough guardrail, you haven't cleared the context for the AI to operate in. Nowadays, I almost never see hallucination because I have got into the habit of providing as much context as I can to the AI so that it performs in that boxed context. It does not go waverly in different places. So those are the skills you have to develop. And apart from that, I think we are going to be valued more and more in the workplace for the human interactions. At the core of the business is done amongst the humans. So you can't just have technical skills anymore. You have to have empathy, you have to have communication, you have to have good storytelling of what you are doing and why you are saying those things. So those are the skills I will develop.
That's great. Does anyone else want to add?
I have
So-
a little bit,
Yes.
a little bit more pointed kind of response. Also, I mean, the panel has also indicated that AI is going to change. I mean, it's rapidly changing by day. So there's not like a tell all of what you should do, and this is going to be how you're going to, get into your industry or get into a career. But what I suggest is look at some job requisitions on companies' websites in the field that you're trying to get in. So, like, let's say you're an entry-level finance professional and you see entry-level job recs, copy the job rec or paste the URL into ChatGPT or Gemini and say, what should I like learn based on this job requisition? And how can I enhance my skills to elevate to this job role? And then you can start developing your skills and then make it a practice to keep doing that in some firms that you want to join or whatever organizations you're looking at applying for. And then you'll just slowly but surely start building those skills, and that will be indicative of the job role that you're actually applying for.
I love that so much because it's back to that lifelong learning, constantly updating and constantly finding out what the latest is, and using AI to help you figure out how to use AI, how to prepare for a job interview. We have someone who ended up with a job at Amazon. He's a former St. Mary's student, finished in our undergraduate program in marketing, and he had AI do practice interviews with it. He wrote his own cover letters, and then he'd send it to AI and send the job description and ask for feedback on what he could do with a cover letter. It prepped him, and he got a lot of job offers. Amazon wasn't the only one. So yeah, this is great advice. And I can say for at least one of our graduates, it worked last year, which is fantastic. I see one more question that was actually posted by someone who wrote that she had to leave early. But I think the question is relevant, and I'm going to actually add something to it. Do any of you want to share anything on agentic AI? A lot of students have asked me, how do I use agents? And should I create a custom GPT? What's that? Which is something you can do in ChatGPT. Do any of you have any sort of advice on that? Because even though the person who posted it is gone, I think that's a question that's probably relevant even to people who didn't know it was relevant. Anyone want to answer about that? What do we need to know about agents? I think several of you are using agents. Yeah.
I didn't want to just unmute just because I answered the last one, but
What do you think?
what do I think? So I think agents in general, as it pertains to like the work environments, it depends on what process you're trying to automate, how you're trying to incorporate agents, what decisioning you want the agent to do. So I can just give a very broad example of like Salesforce and a sales agent, where sales teams are now just working with the AI agent to or the sales agent to understand their accounts and map their territories and learn more about the customer or an industry. And it's just a way to work alongside an agent and minimize the time that you would have spent researching something. And that's just a critical way that you can enhance the workforce, but then take that knowledge and then do something. So it's the people, not the salesperson takes in the knowledge and then they have to talk to the customer. They still have to build that connection and understand their priorities. So the sales agent is there just as a guide, or any agent is really just there as a resource to automate some processes, but then the person actually has to do the rest. So that's all I would want to add so far on agents.
Fantastic. And this is probably going to be the last question we take because I'm aware of time and I don't want us to go late. Does anyone else from our panel want to answer anything about agents, add anything to what Aurora said, which was great?
So agent is a very overloaded term. In Copilot setting in the job, it means very different. Like in Copilot, you can add agents. There is a research agent which Copilot gives you. By default, there is a analyst agent which will do data analysis for you. And then you can have agents for different systems that you are using on day-to-day basis for your job, and you add those because you're fetching data from those different systems. So you can just ask that agent and it will get it. So you can enhance how much information you're pulling in when you're composing a report or composing an email or summary of some incident, uh, if you have all these agents working for you. So, and you can practice it in St. Mary's environment. Thanks to Dawn, we now have access to Gemini enterprise level subscription. So in Gemini world, it's a GEMS. GEMS do the same thing. It allows you to create specific targeted agents. So practice it with the subscription that you have access to.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for bringing up that those of you who are students at St. Mary's College of California do get access to that resource, which we are very grateful for. I would love to answer all the questions because they're all great, but I also am aware of time. So I do want to take this opportunity. Oh, we already did that. To thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to our fabulous panel. All of you were wonderful, as you were when you were my students. You were wonderful to have on the panel. Thank you for your patience with my questions. Our excellent AV guy, Rob Limon, if it wasn't for you, we would not be muting and unmuting and figuring out all the technology. And he's been very patient with me as I learn how to set up registrations, etc., and send reminders. And of course, the audience. Thank you so much for asking great questions, for staying for a whole hour and a half, which is, kind of overlapping dinner. It's not the perfect time. It's just the time that I could get everyone on the panel to come. Thank you for the lovely comments in the chat as well. I enormously appreciate it. And then finally, thank you to the AlphaWorks Center for Responsible Business, the sponsor of this organization, and to the School of Economics and Business Administration, which is part of St. Mary's College of California, where the AlphaWorks Center is housed. Just a big round of applause